Hello, everybody. We're going to try something different. So, as you know, we're always trying to reinvent ourselves, always trying to figure out new ways of producing content for you. And one of the things that I wanted to quietly try was a live addendum show to 10. And I want you to tell me honestly at the end of this whether you enjoyed it, whether you think it's something that we should do in the future. And if it is, let me know, because maybe this is something that we can do, maybe not every week, but it's something we can do with a decent amount of frequency. I hope that your Saturday has gone well, or maybe even your Sunday, if it's Sunday where you are in the world. I have my Kate Walton Elliott earrings on. These are very special earrings that she made me. They are Motorola 040 chips or 6800 chips. So I'm really liking these because I'm a Mac person, and obviously my first Mac was actually a PowerBook 100, but I kind of learned how to do Macs when I was very young, and that was a long time ago now. So let's go on. So the idea behind this is that we are going to go through the stories. And I have a list of corrections and addendums and responses to some of the comments, just so that you feel that we are actually listening and paying attention. I also have a decaf here made at home on my coffee machine. Very, very fond. For those who don't know, I am a bit of a coffee snob.
Could you say that again? Sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
There you go. How do you know it's live? My Apple Watch tries to jump in and save the day. I'm a coffee snob. This is my decaf coffee. I had a caffeinated coffee earlier on today. Don't tell my cardiologist. And as I said, we were sitting down to do some other things. It's been something I've been thinking about for a while, and there were lots and lots of comments on this week's show. So I figured, why not? Let's start. And so I'm going to go through the stories that we covered on today's show earlier today, and I'm going to give feedback to some of the responses and some of the criticisms and some of the things that people said, so that A, that we've heard you, and B, that we're not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. We're not trying to make any one automaker out to be worse than anybody else. We have received quite a lot of negative feedback since we did our piece midweek on Tesla and the allegations against it in California. So I figured, let's give you some feedback on 10. So we'll start with the E-Up story. The E-Up getting back into production is a really good news story for Volkswagen. And the whole point of this was that Volkswagen had cancelled this vehicle, and then because of demand for affordable electric vehicles, it's basically decided to start making it again. And that's a good news story. And I know someone was very sarcastic in the comments and said, well, the overall production figures for that vehicle were pretty low. And that's because, to begin with, they were pretty low. And then when Volkswagen dropped the price and made it more affordable, it kind of hit a magic price. Paired with government incentives in Germany and other European countries, demand went through the roof. And that's why this vehicle is coming back into production. I know a lot of you were kind of frustrated about the range, said it's not a great range. But at the end of the day, if people are buying it, that's a good thing. Let's move to number 2 on the story. But before I do, if you want to support the show, don't forget you can go to Patreon. You can go to the YouTube channel and hit the join button to support us that way. You can send up a super chat. I don't want to talk about it too much, but one of the sponsors that we worked with in the last year or so has ultimately not paid us for the work we did, which has left us in a bit of a pickle. So anything you can do to help would be great. And if you've got any ideas of people that we can work with moving forwards, let us know in the comments below. All right, so NHTSA, the investigation into the phantom braking. And a lot of you rightly pointed out that phantom braking has occurred in other vehicles other than Tesla. But I think what you're missing maybe is that if we cover another vehicle with complaints about phantom braking, we would cover it in a story about other vehicles that have got phantom braking complaints. I don't know if we have covered, I don't think we've covered any phantom braking incidents in the past, but know that if another car company has a vehicle that does a lot of phantom braking and it hits the headlines, we will cover it. We're not into making we're not into excusing that one company is having problems because another company is having problems. You know, phantom braking is a problem, whoever is doing it. Yes, other car companies have had issues with phantom braking, and yes, it's an issue of autonomous driving. And maybe a good way for us to tackle that in the future would be to have a show dedicated to the problem of phantom braking. Maybe we can get some engineers in and talk about how hard it is to stop vehicles from phantom braking. Because we are talking about Tesla, the reason why this case was such high profile compared to a lot of other automakers is because Tesla has made and delivered a lot more electric vehicles in North America than everyone else. And so this is not like us picking on Tesla. This is us going, this was a big news story this week, and therefore we covered it. Herbert Deese on AMA on Reddit. I'm kind of glad we didn't really get much there on that. The Hummer EV, obviously, yeah, it's an inefficient vehicle, but remember that people who like big gas guzzlers are probably going to want to switch to a big electron sipper. And while it's intellectually important to acknowledge that these massive vehicles are very energy inefficient and we shouldn't be promoting the use of them. And some of you have actually called me out for planning to get a Ford F-150 Lightning as a family vehicle and a vehicle for the company. I would much rather someone drive around in a Hummer that gets 49 miles per gallon equivalent than I would them driving around in a gasoline Hummer that gets 8 miles per gallon. And I know that is, you know, that's kind of replacing one inefficient vehicle with another. But at the end of the day, if we can increase the grid cleanliness, you know, the carbon footprint of the grid can improve, and we can get more people transitioning to electric vehicles, I would much rather people be driving around in inefficient electric vehicles than inefficient gas vehicles. And yes, the gold standard should always be to get people to drive the most efficient and the most environmentally responsible vehicles that we all can. But, you know, for a number of years, the BMW i3 was the most efficient electric vehicle on sale. And sales of the BMW i3 were not huge. You know, the Nissan Leaf outsold it, the Chevrolet Volt outsold it. I think that demonstrates that people buy the car that's right for them, not necessarily the most efficient vehicle. And we can praise companies like BMW when they brought the i3 out. It was the most efficient vehicle because it traveled about the same distance as other electric cars at the time, but it used far less energy to do so. So there are some ifs and buts and ands and pots and pans with that. So the BMW EPA rating, we haven't really talked about that much, and there wasn't a lot of feedback for that. But just to kind of give some feedback here, Kyriakos, I hope I said that right. Have I seen a Zach from Jerry Rig Everything's Converted Hummer EV? Yeah, I have. I've been watching that. I think it's really good to see the number of people who are converting EVs. I think we need more YouTubers converting EVs. I think it would be awesome to see that more in the future. So surely it's wrong for NHTSA or whoever to use the general public to test new auto driving software. Surely they should be able to validate it before it gets rolled out to the great unwashed, says Chris Clark. Now, I personally have a big issue with public beta software. And the reason of that is because I do believe that car companies should test it in the real world before they roll it out to the public, but that they should also test it with engineers and trained people first before opening it out. But the important thing is that Tesla has done that. And I think it's something that people don't talk about. While everybody now goes, oh, well, Tesla's just testing beta software on everybody. Yes, Tesla is using its full self-driving beta test program to refine full self-driving. But I think it's important to note that Tesla also tests, extensively tests, underscore, highlighted, flashing lights. It tests a lot of that software in-house first. And while I do agree that Tesla rolls out its public test programs a little too early, personally for my liking, talking as me, Nikki Gordon Bloomfield, not the person who's on screen at Transport Evolved, I don't think beta software should be allowed on the road, period, unless it's being driven by a trained member of a test fleet team. It is one of the reasons why Waymo and other semi-autonomous and fully autonomous robo-taxi services have taken so long to roll out, because they have to get those miles in before members of the public can access it. But yeah, Tesla tests a lot of its vehicle software in-house, both in a real world situation, so Tesla employees driving around testing the software. We know that Elon Musk has done a lot of testing in that regard and takes an active role in testing full self-driving, but also in a simulated world. So Tesla has a massive server farm that it tests, iteratively tests all these different scenarios and to see what works and what doesn't. So while I agree that we shouldn't be publicly testing software on the roads, especially if it, has a potential to go wrong, I think also Tesla, as Helianthropy says, and by the way, thank you for your donation because the channel is worth it. Thank you very much. I think Tesla should definitely have provided more direction on how to use FSD beta, and I would love to see that happen. Sorry, I just bashed the microphone. I would love to see that happen more, and I think that is ultimately, what is hard for any company. FSD beta is a new thing for many people. They've never encountered anything like it. If you are a software engineer, you understand how software works, maybe it's less of a challenge for you. But if you are, Joe or Josephine blogs average user, you may not get it. You may not understand it. And I think that is a risk. And I think that is an important thing. Now, I think that Russell says that the data is pretty clear, that FSD beta test is being done responsibly and not creating any undue risk to anyone. But Ian also says the trouble with testing is that you can do as much as possible with professional testers, and when it's released to others, faults are found, and that is true. But again, I think a lot of my personal concern is that we need a framework for all car companies to agree on, which would then make it easier for everyone to test. If there was a standard mode of operation, I think it would be easier for everybody to use. We have a standard mode of how we control our car, right? So then having a standard way of operating, or at least an expected way of operating autonomous vehicle features, and it's not just Tesla, it's Ford, it's GM, it's Nissan, it's everybody. If they all had a standardized operating, I think it would make the whole situation easier and safer. I think we probably would then find it easier to eradicate things like phantom braking on autopilot, not full self-driving. That is a very important thing to do. So who uses FSD beta? Folks who agree that they are test mules and we'll be ready to report any issues when they have to take over. Sometimes, but I think there's a lot of abuse of it. Anyway, we kind of strayed off the topic there because you were talking about phantom braking. The reason we covered phantom braking was because it was a big story involving a car company that we cover regularly, and we will cover other phantom braking investigations as and when they occur. Now, we can't cover every news story, so we do sometimes have to make picks, and a lot of people who are very critical need to ask themselves, would they rather that we didn't cover them at all? We didn't cover Tesla at all. All right. Someone was saying, several people were complaining about the supercharger access to all EVs. That obviously is out of our control. Thanks for your opinion. All right. Let's talk about the SEC and Elon Musk, because we did screw up there. I'm going to admit that we missed something out of the story. We're not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. And again, the reason we're doing this is so that we can be completely honest and open. And if you ignore your critics and just pretend they don't exist, then you make them believe that you are whatever it is that they say you are. Whereas, me doing this now is going, hey, yep, I acknowledge we missed something out. We were wrong to do that. Here is a clarification and addendum. So, and it's really important. We did screw this up. Oh, by the way, the other thing that I did want to say about the NHTSA potential recall is that some people are upset because you said it could go into a potential recall. And we are using NHTSA's official language. It is a recall, whether it is a in-person vehicle going to the dealership recall or it's an over-the-air software update. Those are both classified as recalls. Don't come chasing after us for language that we are using that is industry standard. That's just the way it is. All right, so to the SEC and Elon Musk. All right, so Elon Musk and the SEC have not been getting on for a long time. After the going public at 420 funding secured tweet, we missed out something very important. And I wrote the main part of the script and Kate Walton-Elliott wrote the shorts. So that's how it went. And Winter and Kate and we all read it. And so we should, when we screw up, we screw up. $40 million of penalty funds that arose from the whole going public at 420 thing. So there was a fine levied against Musk / Tesla. Look at it whichever way you want. There was $40 million of fines that were collected. And the SEC said that it would give that money, split it out to all of Tesla's shareholders. I believe the shareholders who were shareholders at the time of the 420 tweet. And Musk's lawyer has said that has not happened yet. And that was part of the SEC are trying to infringe on our freedom of speech. And I should have included that. I did not. I am sorry. It was not an intentional thing. It didn't strike me. I read the original coverage of it. And then when I was writing the script, I forgot. So I want to, if you're watching this and you are somebody who's really, really wanting Tesla to succeed, and you feel like I was being anti-Tesla by not mentioning that, you have my sincere apology first. And second, I hope that me correcting it here shows you that I'm not, trying to take down Tesla or I've been accused of being a Tesla Q, whatever the heck that is. So that is my thing. All right. So, the other thing that people said, one person was like, well, the whole donation, the charity donation, we glossed over that and we made it sound like it was a bad thing. No, it was a really good thing that Elon Musk gave shares to charity. He will get a tax, effectively, he'll get some tax breaks from that, as far as I am aware. I am not a tax expert. We also don't know where that money went because it's not public knowledge, and he hasn't said. Unless he chooses to say, or someone else chooses to say, we don't know where the money went. But it means that he doesn't have to pay. He doesn't have to pay the taxes that I think he would have had to have paid. So it's a good thing for him. It's a good thing for the charity. And I'm sorry if you felt we weren't being very clear about that. And as to the references made to Adolf Hitler, let me be really clear on this. It is possible to like the cars that are being made by a company. It is possible to like the cars that come from a company. I like the Tesla cars that are coming out right now. I think they're very fast. They're very cool. They're getting lots of interest into the EV world. They're not my personal cup of tea, but that doesn't mean I hate them. It means they're just not my personal cup of tea. And I can get excited when somebody tells me they've just purchased one. We've got friends who've purchased Model 3s partly because of knowing us, knowing the team at the channel, and having discussions about which car would be best for them. It doesn't necessarily it doesn't necessarily mean that if I disagree with something that someone says, that I am anti that person and anti the company that they run. Now, I personally do have some issues with the way that Elon Musk, handles himself in public, but hand on heart, I don't always handle myself in public very well. As those who follow me on Twitter will know, I sometimes say stupid things on Twitter as well. However, I think that could have been handled better. Now, the reason why we mentioned it, and this is important, the reason why we mentioned it goes back to the whole going public at 420 thing. When Elon Musk says something on Twitter, he is speaking as the CEO of one of the world's largest, most valuable companies. And so I think it's important to acknowledge that when he says things, he is reflecting the company because he has made it that way. Because when he doesn't have a separation between his personal and his business, that is what happens. George P says, enough of focusing on their personal tweets. Don't see any personal tweets not related to EVs by Lucid Rivian CEOs. So I think the important thing to note here is that Peter Rawlinson at Lucid doesn't tweet in the way that Elon Musk does. RJ Scaringe doesn't tweet in the way that that Elon Musk does. And, other car company CEOs have a very different Twitter handle. Now, if Elon had gone to great lengths to split up his personal and his business identity, I would feel a little less that we would necessarily have to report on it. But I think that we have to be fair and say, no, you should not be tweeting memes about the freaking Holocaust. No, that is that's do not go there. Now, I want you to imagine for a second if Elon Musk had tweeted something about, let me think, what would be a good illustrative that you would have probably gone, oh no. What if he had tweeted about Nelson Mandela in a similar kind of vein, right? What if his tweet had been about Nelson Mandela? Or what if he had tweeted about another political figure in a similarly negative light? I feel that he would have been criticized about it. And I think that making a direct comparison between the Canadian Prime Minister and Hitler was just inexcusable. And in a week where, the court case had come out about the racism allegations at Fremont and other Tesla facilities, we have to call what we see and report what we see. And I know we got a lot of hate. Like, we lost many subscribers. We lost some supporters, both because of how we covered what Elon said on Twitter, but also because of what we'd done in the middle of the week when we'd covered the story about the alleged racism at Fremont. And I think, I want to acknowledge those of you who say you're becoming political because you're covering political topics. And as we've said on the channel before, it is impossible to cover politics. It's impossible to cover EVs without covering politics. It's impossible to cover the news without covering politics. And when we do stray into that area, we try and give it context. And when, the head of the world's leading electric automaker makes statements that are objectionably not nice and make light of the Holocaust because, he compared Justin Trudeau to Hitler, that is not appropriate in any way, shape, or form. And I know some of you said, oh, but he's got Asperger's, he's on the spectrum. Nope. If you are one of the richest people in the world, there has to be a stop valve. I know how hard that is because I'm somebody who likes to talk and, vent, and I sometimes don't have a stop valve, but it's something everybody who's in the public has to work to have, that stop of, okay, can I really say that? And that requires introspection, and that requires, if you can't do it yourself, getting someone to help you, which is, I think, part of what the whole SEC thing was about. The SEC was like, hey, if you're going to start spouting off on Twitter about things that could affect your company's share price, we need to stop. And I think that's where it goes. All right. Thanks very much, Gary. You are amazing. I see that Winter is in the chat room. And Winter has made something very valid. Elon tweets lots of silly stuff we don't cover, which is true. The Hitler thing was over the top and relevant in a time when one of his companies were facing accusations of racial bias. This is why Winter is on our team. He puts things in a very simple and succinct way. All right, let's go through. There are some more things that people wanted us to note. All right, so someone was saying that the whole Tesla Model 3, Audi R8, and Aptera should have been with four people in the car. Obviously, the Aptera is a two-seater, so I don't know how that would work. The other thing to point out here, some people were upset about the pronunciations. Just don't you love pronunciations? Several people were upset about cattle, C-A-T-L. So cattle. And they said it's C-A-T-L, not cattle as in cows, moo. It's an acronym, and most people, when they're reading, don't read, the actual letters out individual. I don't say N-H-T-S-A. I don't say that. I say NHTSA, right? We all know what I mean when I say NHTSA. Normally we say National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. We normally say that first, but then we say NHTSA. And, if you'd rather that we said the words out first and then do them later, then let us know. It's still funny that cattle is cattle. I still like that, Someone's asking about the shelves. No, they were done by my wife, who is a woodworker in her spare time. So there we go. Contemporary Amperex technology. That's what cattle stands for. All right, the other one was Puma. Apparently, some people don't like the way I say Puma and think that I should say the Ford Puma. I'm British by birth. I'm American by citizenship and Canadian by heritage. Okay, so I am technically, my mum is Canadian, so I am half Canadian by birth. I'm half British by birth because my dad was British. And I am now an American citizen and a British citizen, and hope one day a Canadian citizen too. And so my language is all over the shop. You've heard me switch accents on camera. It's not intentional. It's just the way I do it. So I'm sorry. It's Puma. It's just Puma. Also aluminium. Yeah, it's not aluminum. It's aluminium. It's not Puma. No, that would be stinky. If it was a Puma, that would be very stinky. Really not stinky at all. The other thing, there's two more things that I wanted to correct. Okay, so in the script, we did make a big glaring error, and I want to apologize to the citizens of California and Florida. This is a Kate Walton Elliott error, and I didn't notice it when we read through, and Winter didn't notice it when we read through, and we just filmed. And in case you don't know, we use a teleprompter. It's actually an iPad. See, it's got an asset tag and everything. This is the iPad that belongs to the channel. Just unlock it, and it has you see, it's a teleprompter, and it reads through. So So if I say, coming up on today's show, it should just automatically do. Oh, I have to hit the button. Here we go again. Coming up on today's show. And then it just goes bloop. But apparently Siri wanted my attention. But it will actually scroll, right? And there have been occasions where people have written and put things on the script. And I just read what's on the script. And sometimes, even if I'm, reading it, sometimes I'll catch it and I'll go, that's not right. And I'll have to stop and I'll have to rewrite it in my head. Sometimes it's a grammatical error that got through reading. Sometimes it's a factual error that we have to stop and correct. And I should have seen the Florida and California problem. So to clarify, California is the golden state. Florida is the sunshine state. We called California the sunshine state. I am very sorry. I won't do it again. And Kate won't do it again. But the last one was Ineos, the Grenadier, the electric version of the Grenadier. A couple of you were saying they are a terrible fossil fuel company and therefore we should not be covering them. Look, cleaner, greener, safer, smarter transportation. If it has an electric drivetrain, we are going to cover it. If it is a piece of news that we deem newsworthy, we will cover it. And yes, Winter, these are Kate Warren Elliott earrings that we did it earlier. So I wanted to let you guys know that we do listen to what you're saying. We do listen to your feedback, and we do put fixes and corrections in our script. And I know that the people who criticize us are not the people who are going to sit and watch through this, because they just want to find an excuse to criticize us to essentially to essentially validate their worldview. I just realized I was folding some towel back there and I left it in shot. That's very unprofessional of me. But the important thing is that when we are covering stuff, we do our best, but we are all human and we are a small team. So the team at the moment consists of myself. I am the full-time unpaid member of staff. There is Kate Walton Elliott. She works 2 days a week. Winter works the equivalent of 4 days a week, but he actually works 5 days a week. He has fewer hours. He's not full-time, but he sometimes does more work than he should, and we appreciate him for that. Michael is full-time and Erin is full-time, but Erin does all the animation and the art. She's currently working on a comic. If you are a Patreon supporter above $15 a month, or you are a YouTube member above $14.99 a month, you'll gain access to that at the end of February. She also works on third-party projects because we have to make money. And there are other things that we do to try and make money so that we're not getting, ads from Raid Shadow Legends. And I know at some point in the past we tried that and it failed, but that was back when we were much younger and stupider, or rather I was younger and stupider. So Erin doesn't have anything to do with the script writing normally. She does read through the scripts, but she doesn't do anything on the news side. Michael doesn't do anything on the news side. He is a videographer and he is a video editor. That's his workstation right there behind me. And the videos that we did recently are all videos that, we have to work really, really hard on. And they're videos that require us to use him all the time. I'm going to actually share this with you guys now. This is not actually going to go public. But when we were doing the Polestar 2 review in Portland, we actually went to a local dealership and we worked with a local dealership. They basically knew us and they let us borrow the car for a couple of days. And as a thank you, the owner of the dealership has a Polestar 1. And so we made him this little private video that we wanted to share with him, and I can't do it because it won't play. For some reason, it's an H.265 format, and the studio that I'm using here says no. But maybe we'll get permission and share it on the YouTube at some point. We did basically a very short video. No, nothing from us, nothing from the team, just basically like a music video showing the car, very similar to the Polestar 2 ad that we put out. That is the kind of content that we want to make moving forwards. But in order for us to do that, it takes days to make that content. A lot of camera gear, a lot of time, a lot of patience, and a lot of planning. And so Michael doesn't have anything to do with the news side of things. Winter, Kate, and I basically are the news side of Transport Evolved and the presenters. So Winter is going to be working on the new Tesla Roundup show that's due out on Wednesday this week. And if you want a piece of news covered in that, why didn't you hit us up on Twitter, or maybe leave a comment here and we'll add it to the potential list. We would love ultimately to get submission documents for things, but we haven't yet got that in place because, again, that takes a lot of time and energy and money and everything else. And when we are working on 10, I've talked about this a lot, and this is not an excuse for making mistakes because we always try to be better. But when we're recording 10 normally involves me getting up really early on a Friday morning, having worked late on a Thursday evening to work with the rest of the team to figure out the stories that we're going to be covering, downloading all of the footage that we need for that show, and then writing the script on a Friday morning, then filming it, and then I edit 10. So if there's ever any issues with the editing of 10, it's because of me. We edit everything that we do on Transport Evolved using DaVinci. Oh gosh, I nearly dropped it. Using this DaVinci Resolve. Okay, and we have little speed editor wheels. We have 4 of these now, I think, 3 of these. Winter has one, Michael has one, I have one. We edit everything in DaVinci Resolve except Kate. She uses Final Cut Pro for all of her videos. And I use Final Cut Pro for 10. And the reason we use Final Cut Pro for 10 is because it's the program that we started using when I started Transport Evolved. And we've got years of back catalogue of B-roll for cars already in that program. And it just makes it easier for me to transport it and shove it in. But that does mean that I have to edit 10 from start to finish. That's me. And that is probably, if I finished writing the script by 10, it's a really good day. If it's finished by noon, it's a goodish day. If it's finished by 2, it's a bad day. And if it's finished by 4, well, it's not going to get out that day. And sometimes we manage to get it out before I go to bed. And sometimes I have to finish it on a Saturday. So, 10 is my baby. And when I screw up, I want to make a video like this and say, hey, we screwed up. We're sorry. Here are some corrections. If you liked watching this, let me know. And maybe we can do this as a full-time thing. We're also contemplating a couple of shows coming back that we may have had in our original days. And we would love to know what you would like to have in those in the future. Has anyone on your team driven the Polestar 1? Asks James Paul. Not yet. Is Arkimoto going to sell a lot in 22? I don't know. We'll tell you more after we've driven it a bit more. We haven't actually driven it yet. Thank you to Mike Kent. I don't know if you're watching this. You've just become a Patreon supporter, so thank you very much for that. And good evening to everybody else who is joining us. How can I join Discord? It says I don't have access to anything. So we have a moderation bot that makes sure that you're a human before you have access to Discord, because the last thing we want is robots coming into our Discord chat room and spamming the group with inappropriate content. So we are going to be if you have an issue, reach out to one of the moderators in the Discord chat. You should be able to reach the Discord moderators, and if not, send us an email and we'll try and get to the bottom of it. Do I have any updates of the pre-orders for the Aptera qualifying for a free vehicle to donate? So we are not there yet. For those who are watching, yes, we have an Aptera vehicle referral code. And we're doing that because because Aptera have a referral program. A lot of you wanted to donate to the referral program. And, you know, we have said that we don't want to profit off that. And so we wanted to be able to donate a vehicle. We are not there yet. So if you are interested in Aptera, as somebody who has a reservation, there is a link in the description on most of the videos. You can go and do that. And then once there is enough for a basic vehicle, we're hoping to auction it off or give it away. What classic car was I starting in Kate's video this week? Thanks for those of you who looked and noticed that it was me. I didn't know if you would notice it was me because I looked very different in 2005. I think we filmed that 2004, 2005. We filmed that in Bristol. But I was living in Hampshire at the time. So it was 2004. 2004, maybe 2005. It was my Morris Minor called Hebe, and she had a crank that enabled me to start her using a crank handle if her battery and her starter motor were not working. We have such a mix of tech, tools, and vehicles. Yes, I know, a blender of circumstance as a fellow Oregonian. We do have a lot of different vehicles, and we do have a lot of different tech as well. One of the things I was going to do today was actually work on my 3D printer because we got some stink bugs in it, and we've got a new control board for it and other things to do. Someone was saying, Will was saying, Winter should subscribe to FSD and do some drive along videos, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And as Winter says, unfortunately, he would have to spend $1,000 to upgrade his car before he could use that. And that's the thing. And I think that's a lot of things that people are missing. Asking someone on our team to spend money to then make content is, if it's the channel, that's one thing. But if it's an individual on the team and it's their personal vehicle, that's very different. If someone, chooses to do something personally, then we can maybe do a video about it. Like someone buys a new car, we can do a video about it. But, the team are not self-employed. We are, well, I guess technically I am, but everybody on the team gets a salary, and I'm not going to ask them to spend their own money on stuff to grow the channel. That would be unfair. And so there you go. That is our week. If you have a few more questions, I'm willing to stick around for a few more questions. Please share this video around. I hope that I have tackled some of the criticisms of 10. And I wanted to do this to show that, we are willing to admit that we make mistakes. And obviously the Florida mistake was a big one, not mentioning the $40 million distribution to shareholders was a big, big one. I will take that one on the nose. That was my fault. And if you would like us to do this more often, let me know. I would be willing to do it. Before I go, I do want to talk to you about Patreon. I do want to talk to you about the channel. Mark, that is brilliant. Please, the humor in your shows. You all need humor today. Next time you are in Detroit area, check out the Henry Ford Museum. I saw the EV one today and did not know about it until you mentioned it in your show. Yeah, the EV one is awesome. It's a great vehicle. I've sat in one, and I have the motor. I have a motor from an EV1 in one of the Transport Evolved project cars that's sitting on my driveway. We are more questions. We have a Chevy Bolt for the last 4 years. Do you know when they might finally change batteries? Reach out to the Chevrolet concierge If you didn't buy the vehicle new, they may not know that you are the registered owner. So it's always worth doing that. Why are you not covering the electric X bus that can morph into 9 different styles? Because we are a small team, as I already said, and we have to sleep, and we have to eat, we have to do our housework, and we have families. Everybody on the team has a partner. So we're not like, we don't all just live in the same house and tappy on the computer. That would make us very boring people. I have dogs and chickens and a house and a garden and everything else to do. And so we have to work sensible hours, and there's just not enough time in the day for us to do all of these things. And I know it's very tempting. If you are an enthusiast in the EV world, you see a piece of news and you're like, oh, that's super cool. And you read a short article and you think, yay. But that's very different to making a video about it. We have to do other things, like get the rights permission, get the assets, pictures, videos. We have to research it. We have to write the script. As a kind of an idea, the video we did on Tesla's court case in California this week, that took 2 full days to work, maybe 3 actually, because there were 2 people working on it for 2 days. And then by the time you've done the script reading and all of the animation that went into it, that's 3 solid days of work. So fold my towels, have a snack, and get some sleep. Well, my towels are already folded, not very well, but they are folded. Look, I know a lot of people are very kind of funny about GM not selling any cars this quarter. And I think that criticizing, if it was any other car company involved in a recall, I think we would have the same attitude towards it, which is, it's a car company that's had a recall. It's prioritizing it's prioritizing its existing customers, which is a good thing, right? Getting battery packs replaced and put into cars. And that means its supplier doesn't have the capacity, I presume, to produce batteries for customers' cars and batteries for series production, and therefore something has to give in the system. It's not that GM kind of went, oh, guess what? We're not going to build any new EVs and sell those because who wants to sell EVs? No, I genuinely think they were going, there's this big problem. We're working with LG. We've got to get new batteries in. I'm not excusing it. I think GM handled it terribly. I have said that publicly on the channel multiple times. I know there are people who choose not to hear when I am critical of other car companies, but I am regularly critical of other car companies. And I think that, that's something about Transport Evolved that we are not going to change. We are going to be critical when we need to be critical, and we are going to praise when we are going to praise. That is just how we do things. That's how we roll in the Shire. How can we upvote Will's comment about if range has increased for the Bolt after battery charge? My Bolt hasn't really had a massive range increase yet, but to be honest, I've not driven a whole much because my battery was replaced just before the holidays. I didn't drive anywhere for the holidays. My wife drove somewhere with her sister for the holidays to see family across the other side of the country. But I didn't drive anywhere. I was here with dogs and the chickens, and we had snow, and so I didn't drive many places. And then since the start of the year, I haven't really driven anywhere. The furthest I've driven, have I driven up to Olympia this year? I don't even think I've driven up to Olympia, up to Kate Walton Elliott's studio, because she's driven down here a couple of times. I haven't driven up to see her. I have the longest drive. I'll tell you what, the longest drive we're going to do this year will be next week. We've got a road trip on Tuesday. We're doing like a day trip further south from here, and so that's going to be like, what, by the time I've picked up Michael and his gear, it's probably going to be like a 350, 400 mile round trip. And then maybe I'll be able to tell you more about the range after that. But basically, after the battery pack upgrade, you have to train the battery pack, and the battery pack still hasn't got the memo that it has a new battery in it. It's still going off the old battery pack, so it wasn't set right. I mentioned that the BMS has to be reset with many cycles to get an accurate range estimate for the Bolt. Yeah, that's basically what I've been told. So we're not there yet. Yeah, George. Okay, so this is something that I feel like I need to address here. Because I did have someone. I said I was going to go. I'm sorry. It is not my job on this channel to pick favorites. And unless you have the paperwork saying that this happened and the paper trail saying that this happened, it's an allegation that I don't believe has any paperwork, and I'm willing to be proven wrong. I'm willing to be proven wrong. If you think that that was just a thing because they paid the government money and therefore they were thrown money at the government, and therefore the government was nice to them. I think it's more about the unions than anything else, frankly. And let's be honest. Had there been unions in Fremont, I genuinely believe that it would have been easier to tackle alleged racism. That's not to say that racism is not happening in union shops, because it patently is, and there have been allegations made of Ford and of GM and of other car companies across America and across the world. But there are benefits that I think a lot of that I think the president wants to see unions. He wants to see unions representing workers, and I think that is the reason why those car companies were given front and center, because it ties in. Yes, it ties in with his political goals, but I don't think there's kind of backdoor paying money thing. This is not. Look, there are way too many. There's way too many conspiracy theories surrounding Tesla, and I think we just need to drop it. And it really upsets me and it really frustrates me. Tesla doesn't need conspiracy theories to survive. And just look at its freaking production numbers and its quarterly earnings, right? It's doing just fine. Tesla's doing just fine. It doesn't need people saying, oh, Big Oil have got it in for them and Legacy Auto have got it in for them. Put your big boy pants on. You know? It is the leading EV manufacturer in North America right now. It's running rings around the competition in terms of volume of vehicles, but that doesn't mean that these other companies don't have a valid part to play too. And yes, I think President Biden was stupid beyond belief to not acknowledge Tesla until he did. I think that was probably him playing politics, yes, but I don't think that there was, money changing hands. Did I switch accents? Apparently I switched accents. Did I go American? I think that, Tesla is very anti-union. It clearly has had some issues in the past, because court cases in the past have been won in Tesla against Tesla. And I think anything that can help improve EVs globally, anything that can be improved in terms of vehicle quality and affordability. That is what everybody wants to see. And, oh, but GM crushed the EV1. Really? It was 20 freaking years ago. I think things have changed since then. And you can call me naive and you can call me names. But I also acknowledge that unions in the US have a very different connotation to what they have in Europe. Okay. So I have been a member of a union. I know Kate Walton Elliott has been a member of a union. I was a member of the Musicians Union. Okay. And if it wasn't for the Musicians Union, I would be out of a lot of money. I would have been out of a lot of money. I was taken advantage of in my early days as a musician. And so, did I notice just because the noise on social media finally forced him to acknowledge Tesla and its contribution? No, it wasn't about social media. That's the other thing, George. Come on, dude. If you think 50,000 people swayed the president in a country of 300 plus million, 330 million are we now? I don't know what the current population of America is. Bad Nikki, my civics are terrible. That's a tiny proportion of the total population, right? Can we agree on that? I don't think that the tiny petition caused President Biden to change. I think that President Biden does want to make sure he gets support from the unions, because previously the unions were leaning towards President Trump and the Republican Party, and that didn't go as well as some of the unions had hoped, or some of the workers had hoped. President Biden does want to appeal to blue-collar workers. And additionally, I don't want to go into politics. This is nearly an hour long. But additionally, I think that the reason Tesla was, mentioned, honestly, I think that the government wanted to speak to Tesla about chip shortages and about manufacturing in America. And I'm sure that in the negotiations, someone at Tesla said, if you want our help, at least acknowledge we exist. I honestly think that's where it came from. That's all I'm going to say on that. Boris says, I knew that you were cool, but you're a musician too. Awesome. Yeah. I am actually, I'm not. I used to be a professional oboist. So I trained at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama in London. And I was so thank you, Polytax. I was a professional oboist. I went to music college after I graduated high school. Went to music college for 4 years, did a music degree, and then I became a music teacher. And I was a music teacher for 4 years. No. For 10 years. I was a music teacher for 10 years in Lincolnshire and then down in the southwest of England. And then I have always been into music, and also I've always been into cars. I grew up in a carless family, so my family taught me a whole lot about cleaner, greener, safer, and smarter by not having cars. We used public transit. We lived in the middle of the country. I saw firsthand how climate change affects us all. That's how I've got into doing this, because I come at this from a climate change perspective and an environmental perspective and a need to do something different. 1993, a big storm came through, but like the storm that's just come through in the UK this week, and changed my life forever. And were it not for that event and me then realizing this is climate change, my dad lost his job. Because the farmer lost a lot of the marshland that the cattle were grazed on. So he lost his job. We had to move, and I hated it. So that's why I do Transport Evolved. Does the lack of robust train system here in the US drive me crazy? Yes. Yes, it does. I once had to catch a train up to Seattle, and I was just blown away by how long it took. It took me longer than it took on by car. That's weird and stupid. It doesn't work. Have I ever driven a van? Of course I have. Are you joking? Do I have to make the tranny driving a tranny joke? By the way, that's a thing I can say, but you can't say. It's like, you know, the Q word. It's kind of self-referential. I'm allowed to do it, but you're not allowed to use that word. So, and I don't like that word. I only use that because it was kind of playing on words. So I drove of course I've driven a Transit. Haven't driven the e-Transit yet. I'm hoping that I will get a chance to. Ford knows that we want to drive one, so we're going to talk to Ford again about getting behind the wheel of that. But yeah, no, I've driven lots of vehicles in my time. Classic cars, big vehicles, small vehicles, tractors, trailers, all the other things. So there we are. I'm in the captain's chair as a classically trained musician, much as Picard was actually a classically trained actor. Patrick Stewart is the best, and I cannot wait for the new series of Picard. Take 2 Oboe concert inside F-150 Lightning. All right, because you're all being so nice to me. Kind of going off rails a little bit here. But because you're all being so nice to me. I'm just trying to find something for you all. If you want to hear me as a professional oboist, go to that link. All right? There is a link there. It's an album that I produced. I played. No, it's not Earl Grey. It's decaf coffee. But Earl Grey is my favorite tea. Hot. This is coffee cold because I've been talking too long. So there you go. That is everything that I wanted to say in terms of stuff. If you have any ideas about how we can do more things you'd like to see the channel do, maybe more informal chats like this, let me know, because we'd like to expand. We can't expand right now because of finances. As I said, one of our sponsors has not paid us for reasons that I think are beyond their control, because they might happen to be in a country that might be about to be invaded. So we are a long way down. We've lost a lot of money from that, but kind of it's a knock-on effect of a guy whose name may or may not begin with VP. So yeah, I'm not going to hold the company responsible, but I am going to hold that particular guy responsible for that. Ad revenue is down a huge amount. Like we're getting about a quarter of what we normally do in ad revenue right now, which is the reason why we haven't paid me since November. And we really could use some more income so I can pay myself because I've been working through my savings. Anyway, that is everything that is going on. We are considering doing some other stuff that I don't want to talk about yet, but let me know if you want us to do more fun things like this, and maybe we can make this a thing. We'd have to kind of trade off content elsewhere in the week, though, because I am not working 80 hours a week. I've done that before, and it made me a very unhappy person. Thank you to Winter for jumping on the chat, because I know he's in the chat. He's not being paid to do this. Thank you, Winter. Winter's not working on Monday. Nobody is working on Monday. It is a day off. I will be working, but I don't count because I'm the boss. That is a dog barking downstairs, which means he's having his supper, which means it's my cue to head out. Thanks for joining me, and as always, keep evolving.